First of all, why are you here?
I'm here to have a look at the work that's going on in this fantastic community hub with young people and adults here who are playing football, and in particular the work they're doing with 16 to 24-year-olds to help get them into work. And they're doing work on confidence building and skills, which is vitally important. And I think that the model that's being operated here is something we could roll out around the country. I'm very, very determined to do a lot in relation to those people, particularly young people, who need to and want to get into work, and making sure we can give them the support that they need.
It's a week since The Guardian broke the story that Peter Mandelson failed security vetting. At any point in the last 7 days, have you considered your position and thought about resigning?
I think it's very important to see what's going on here. Last week, my political opponents were saying that there's no way a civil servant wouldn't have told me about the outcome of developed vetting, the security exercise. Turns out my political opponents were completely wrong about that. Then they said that I was dishonest. It turns out they were completely wrong about that. They are now putting any allegation that they can, and I'll tell you for why. They're opposed politically to what this government is trying to achieve. We've introduced the Employment Rights Act to give people more rights at work. The Renters' Rights Act, giving those in rented accommodation more rights, is coming in very shortly. We've invested a huge amount in the NHS, but my political opponents don't like that. And so you have these allegations that keep on coming.
Do you accept, though, that Olly Robbins was just following procedure, trying to implement your wishes, and that it was a mistake to sack him?
Look, I strongly think that the outcome of the security clearance exercise, the developed vetting exercise, was important and should have been brought to my attention, and could have been brought to my attention. And had it been brought to my attention before Peter Mandelson took up his post, then I wouldn't have appointed them. I think it was a serious error of judgment. It's very important to make clear to everybody that Sir Olly Robbins does not suggest he did tell me that information. He makes it clear he took a decision not to give me that information. I think that was the wrong decision. But all of the allegations that have been that he wouldn't have told me, he must have told me, I couldn't be telling the truth about this. They're all allegations by my political opponents, all of which have been found to be a case that just can't be substantiated.
Are you confident the Cabinet is fully behind you?
The Cabinet is working really hard on a huge amount of issues and what we're delivering at the moment. We're preparing for the King's speech and all the further measures that we're going to need to take the country forward. And of course, the issue we discuss at Cabinet a lot in recent weeks is the war on two fronts, the ongoing war in Ukraine and the developing situation in Iran. What we discuss at Cabinet is the international aspect of that, but also the domestic impact in relation to that, and the measures that we need to take to ensure that we're assessing the risks and making sure we're protecting people in this country from those impacts.
Speaker, 1.6c of the Ministerial Code states, "It is of paramount importance that ministers give accurate and truthful information to Parliament, correcting any inadvertent error at the earliest opportunity." Yesterday, the Prime Minister said to the House, Olly Robbins went on to say, "I have complete confidence that recommendations to me and the discussion we had and the decision we made were rigorously independent of any pressure." What Sir Olly actually said to committee was, "I also have complete confidence that their recommendations to me and the discussion we had and the decision we made were rigorously independent of that pressure." That pressure, not any pressure. The Prime Minister materially changed Sir Olly's meaning. Robbins was clear. He had been put under pressure. Does the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister know whether the Prime Minister intends to correct the record?
Mr. Speaker, I think the difference between the words "that" and "any" is not of material relevance to the question that the Minister is putting to the House. The Prime Minister has not misled the House, and the testimony of the Prime Minister, but also of Sir Olly Robbins, is very clearly on the record, and that makes the case.
Alex Burker.
The Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister is perfectly intelligent enough to know that there is an enormous difference between those two words. I will remind him that the Prime Minister is bound by the Ministerial Code. Yesterday, the Prime Minister also told the House Sir Olly was absolutely clear that nobody put pressure on him to make this appointment. But this is not what Sir Olly said to committee. He actually said Throughout January, honestly, my office and the Foreign Secretary's office were under constant pressure. And again, while I think the department felt under pressure, we were proud of the fact we had not bowed to that pressure. And again, Philip Barton's handover to me has contributed to my strong sense that there was an atmosphere of pressure. To avoid being in breach of the ministerial code, ministers must correct the record at the earliest available opportunity. At the very latest, the earliest opportunity is now. Will the Prime Minister correct the record?
It is not the view of the Prime Minister or the government that the Prime Minister needs to do so.
Liberal.
As a result of his refusal to hand over these documents, what happened?
I took the very unusual judgment that I should directly request the information from UK security vetting. And I did that because I go back to my responsibilities to discharge the humble address, which is a responsibility that is unique to me and I take very seriously. I felt that I needed to see some relevant documentation so that I could advise the Prime Minister as to whether we had fully complied and gathered the information that was available and within scope.
And what was Sir Olly's reasons for not handing it over?
I think his evidence to you on Tuesday very much reflects the nature of the conversations that we were having at the time. He would prioritise, I believe, and I can't talk about his judgments and decisions. I can only talk about my judgments and decisions, but I think he has set out his view to this committee.
I'm deeply concerned about it, honestly. I mean, it probably flows from the rest of the evidence I've been giving you this morning. I think this system does not work if candidates for it don't understand that this is an entirely different category of protection. And losing that conflict, you know, I know it's a cliche, but that trust once gone cannot be got back. Thousands of people go through this process. Thousands and thousands of documents and sensitive issues and operations depend upon it. And I am struck and saddened that within, I think, days, probably only a small number of days, of the Cabinet Office, for their own reasons, deciding to open that up, to share what they thought they'd found and their perceptions of it internally with Number 10. I'm not making accusations at anybody. It's not my business to do so. I hope they're being very rigorously investigated and the prosecutions will result, because this is a grievous breach of national security. All I am able to do, I'm not an investigator, all I'm able to do is put two and two together, which is that the first I heard of this deep concern and briefing of it to the Prime Minister was only really hours before it appeared in The Guardian.